Hello everyone, this is Heriberto Oquendo Jr. and I'm here to show you guys how your students can graph functions using Google Sheets. Okay, so I'm going to model for you what I've done with my students in the past, and I hope this is useful for you. So what I would do is, of course, I would write Mr. Oquendo homework or end of unit assignment, whatever it is, right? Then this is from the January 2020 Regents. This is a part 3 question. And here you have the situation. The story is about Michael throwing a ball, which normally happens. We know that this is a quadratic. The problem is that students may not have a graphing calculator at home. They may not be familiar with um, how to use Desmos and all those other things. But the good thing is that with Google Sheets, they can enter functions, and I'll show you how to have them enter the functions, and then it will also graph the functions, and then they can answer questions. So the first part of the question, it asks for them to graph the equation on the set of axes below. Now students may not be able to do that because they don't have a graphing calculator. But the second part of the question also asks you to determine the average rate of change in feet per second from when Michael released the ball to when the ball reached its maximum height. So that's where we have to run and use this. Now this system, you could also use it for linear functions. You could use it for all different types of functions. So for right now, what I would do is I would write, if this was the assigned problem, I would write January Regents question number 33. Okay? Then here, what I would do is, what you will notice in this problem is that it starts from 0 and it goes all the way to 5. So I would title this as time in seconds. Okay. And then this, I would write height in seconds. Okay, I don't know why I put that. So, and I just caught another mistake. I should have had, I should have wrote feet. But, one of the things I've learned about doing these videos is that you just keep learning more. And there's no such thing as feet. It's feet. One thing I've learned is that you learn from your mistakes while you're doing these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to put 0 here, although it's not really put in there, but I always start with 0 with these types of functions, depending. The good thing is that if they give you the domain, then all you have to do is write the domain. Okay, now you could manually do that, right? You could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you can just shift and highlight here, and you see this little filler tool. You go all the way down to, I think that's going to be 5 there. Okay? Now this is where all the magic happens, because Google Sheets works very much like Microsoft Excel. So if you're familiar with Excel, you should already know how to do this, but if you don't, then I'll show you. What you're now going to do is here, you're going to enter the function. However, because we're dealing with an Excel type of platform, you have to enter it a little bit differently. So this is where coding comes into place for those of us who know about coding. So pretty much what you're going to do is you're going to tell the Google Sheet to enter this formula a certain way for you. So you see I would put -16, right? But as opposed to entering the t squared, what I will do is I will click here. Whoops. Sorry, I made the mistake again, because the first thing you also, before you do that, you have to tell the computer what you're going to do with the 16. So I put the times, which is shift 8, and then I'm going to click on this cell. Then I'm going to shift equal sign because we're going to add. Then I'm going to put 64, not 16, 64, shift 8 again because it's plus 64, and then I'm going to click this again, right? Plus shift equal plus 60. So now you have this formula already, and it already has calculated it for you. Okay? If you get an error message when you've entered this, stop the video now and go back and repeat the steps that I've gone over, because I had to go through this around 3 or 4 times before I figured it out. So once you do that, you're going to click the cross hatching here, and you're going to bring it all the way down. So now you have all your x values, and now you have all your y values. Now this is where your students can insert the rate of change, right? Because they want to know when the ball was released, which was, the height was at 60 feet, and then the maximum height was at 252. However, something's not right, and I'll tell you what happened. I did the same mistake again. So let me fix this formula for you guys, because as you could see, first, and this is okay, things like this are going to happen. You have to be patient with yourself, okay? So you're going to put negative 16. What I did not do, ladies and gentlemen, is I did not put shift F6 squared. I did not square, so that's why it was coming across as a linear function. Okay, so now let's double check. It's negative 16 times a4 raised to the second power plus 64 times a to the fourth plus 60. Beautiful. Now once again, bring it all the way down, and now this has more of a parabolic look to it. The wonderful thing about the Google Sheets is that you could do some really cool things with it. So of course, you know, your students can then enter all the data in there. One of the ways that they can do that, what you can do is you can create this workbook and then share it with them via Kami, which I've done another video on that. Or you could just have them submit it to you. Okay, but we're not done here with the problem yet, because I'm going to close this out, because I really want to show you a really cool feature about this that you may not know. So then I'm going to highlight here, and then I'm going to insert chart. And now I have officially graphed the function. You see that? So here, and all of this here in your chart editor, you can play with it and whatever. However, since I know that it's a curve, I know that I want to change the chart. So I'm going to go with smooth line chart, and here I have it. Okay. And it's going to give you the x-axis, the y-axis. You can set up anything and everything that you want. And then one of the things that I like to do is I like to actually change the chart and make it into a different color. So this is the default color. I'm partial to green. Those of you who know me know that I'm like obsessed. If you want to put the border color as black, you can put the border color as black. The other thing you can also customize is the different charts and axes title, and you can play around with that and have your students play around with it. Once they see this, they'll be able to figure everything out. Okay. However, I would change the title here, and I'll write maybe graph of the function, because you really want them to be able to make the connection to graph of the function y is equal to -6, or t is equal to -16 t squared plus 64 plus 64, sorry, plus 64 t plus 64 t plus whatever, let me see what the rest of the formula was, plus 60. Plus 60. And you see how it goes automatic tell, and then you can change the color of this, it works pretty cool. The other thing is that then students can move this around using the grabber tool. Okay. And then they can answer the questions either in the cell, and actually they can even copy paste this into like another Word doc or whatever. But I prefer with my students, when I was showing them how to do this, I would let them do it in their in their sheets, in their Google Sheets, and then have a different page for their work. For example, here's another one that I did. This is my practice one, and then that's pretty much what they can do. At least this is another strategy for them to graph functions. They can also do linear regressions if they know what the input and the output is, and then they can just tell the program to do that as well. So I used to use this with my AP Statistics students, and once they got the hang of it, they would come up with some really interesting and fun things. So once again, if you're going to use this with your students, just show them how to enter the formula correctly. And as you saw, when I did it live for you guys, I made a mistake myself. So always show your students how to do it. And then, happy assigning. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always feel free to email me. And let me put my email here so that way you can know it. This is the best one to reach me at, and recently, as of late, I've been obsessed with these Bitmojis, so I'm going to say genius. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and again, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me.